Japan has approved scrapping most restrictions on overseas arms sales, paving the way for warships, tanks, and missiles to be exported. Tokyo says this will strengthen the country's defense and deter potential threats from regional powers. The Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's government emphasized the country will continue to uphold the principles of a peace-loving nation. Currently, Japan has defense transfer agreements with 17 countries, including the UAE, the US, and India.
Today, no country can safeguard its own peace and security on its own. To protect both national and regional peace, it's important to further promote the transfer of defense equipment and strengthen the deterrence and response capabilities of allies and like-minded partners.
Well, Takuya Matsuda is an assistant professor at Aoyama Gakuin University in Tokyo, He joins us live now from the Japanese capital. Professor Matsuda, this is a major shift when it comes to Japan's pacifist post-World War II constitution and when it comes to Japanese policy. Why is this happening now?
Right. Actually, the thing is, when it comes to arm exports, this has been a combination since gradual lifting of bans on arm exports since 2014. Actually, initially in 2014, Japan lifted bans on non-lethal weaponry. So what's different this time around is that, this actually lifts technically all bans for Japan. But when it comes to why this is happening right now, so first of all, the strategic environment here in the Western Pacific has been deteriorating, and that has led to Japan's decision to export arms, basically for two reasons. First of all, any war that could happen in this region will be a protracted war. That's what a lot of observers predict. When it comes to protracted war, you need to have a robust defense industrial capacity for peacetime. So basically, by diversifying its own defense industrial markets, by exporting arms, that will actually help Japan develop its own defense industrial capacity from peacetime. That's one thing to prepare for a protracted war if that ever happens. Another important part here is that Japan is trying to consolidate its partnership with regional partners such as the Philippines and Australia. So these countries, especially for Philippines, the Filipinos is a country in the first island chain, just like Japan, which means that these arms exports will help the Filipinos also develop their own defense capabilities, which will be crucial for regional deterrence. And also for Australia, it's another important like-minded country for Japan. Actually, Japan signed a contract with the Australians on exporting upgraded Mogami class frigates, which is another significant sort of deal when it comes, which comes in hand with these arms export deals.
Yep. Professor Matsuda, let me ask you a little bit more about that, because this move comes as anxiety increases over China's escalating military activity. What do you foresee that the regional reaction to this is going to be more broadly? And which countries would see this as having more of a potential to raise regional tensions?
I think, a lot, so a lot of countries, like Philippines and Australia, actually welcoming Japan's lifting of this ban. However, when it comes to a country like China, they might see this as something that might raise tensions in the region. So that is also one thing that's, it's actually a flip of a coin. For a lot of U.S. allies, like my partners, this is a welcoming development that will actually help strengthen those partnerships and also bolster self-reliance among them. But when it comes to China, they will see this with alarm.
Professor, Japan has been a country that prides itself with being pacifist. How do you foresee that the public is going to react to this change? Is there any sense of growing unease about this? Right.
This was announced just today, so it's really hard to tell what the domestic reaction will be at this point. But I would argue that a lot of these defense exports, including the Mogami class frigates that were, the contracts were signed just over a weekend. There has been a lot of these developments in the past 5 years, which means that it's not actually a big news when it comes to Japan actually expanding its defense exports. So I would say that I would also add that compared to 2014, when Japan first lifted bans towards non-lethal weaponry systems capabilities. Japan has been, upgrading its own military capabilities, and Japan has been living in a deterrent strategic environment, which means that, the public has been aware that Japan needs to step up to do more for regional security and also for its own defense, which means that I would argue in general that this will have less backlash compared to back in 2014 or 15 when Japan was still, the pacifism was still something that really permeated through the Japanese public.
All right. Takuya Matsuda, assistant professor at Aoyama Gakuin University in Tokyo. Thanks so much for joining us here on Al Jazeera. We really appreciate getting your thoughts.